All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:31. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You speak if you want to come away.
All right, the first thing on the agenda is to amend the agenda. Does anyone need to amend the agenda? Excellent. Next is to approve our previous minutes from the May 13th meeting. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from 5:13.
I second. Is there any discussion? Jeffrey, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Are there any public comments for items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll get right into new business. We're going to start with the town financial update. And we have Natalia here with us tonight.
We do. This is so we don't argue all day tomorrow about what I said or didn't say or whose fault something may or may not be. I really appreciate Natalia being here, and she's kind of like my wingman. What we're going to go through, it sounds terrible. I don't think it is, but we've been working on this, I'm going to say, for years. Back in January, as part of the budget process, I provided a document that kind of outlined basically a decades-long issue with dam construction and failure to get the reimbursement for that and things like that. And really, as I said there, and I'll briefly repeat, Natalia has done a great job since she's taken over of untangling a mess of reporting and doing yeoman's work to clarify primarily our project accounting and funding and things like that. And keeping in mind, this is all while there's, FEMA money coming in and out, ARPA money in and out, grant money in and out. It's been a complicated way, and we've landed ourselves where we are. And what I thought might be best is I'm just going to walk through this document that I got to you like an hour ago. And with Natalia's help, we'll go through where we are, how we got here, and what we can do. So the very first line, it says, as of the end of June this month, we should have an accumulated deficit of $1,175,681. That's from the beginning of time to now.
What page is that on?
This very
First line?
very first one.
Oh, okay. We're looking for it. Thank you.
And I'm just going to read straight from it so that I can do that, and then we can get some clarifying. This amount is based on the town of Windsor's financial statements and include all the activities, including the general fund, reserve fund, and capital fund. Deficits include, that number includes an expense of $303,000 that had not been reimbursed at the close of fiscal 25, which is the last audited year. And that was when we were putting the air conditioners in last summer. And excluding that amount, the deficit as of June 30th would have been $872,000. Okay. So that's just an example. And I tell you, at the core of this, we have the operating statement, the budget we vote on. And that's what I look at every year as how much did we tell the taxpayers it was going to cost to do these things? And we raise the taxes for it and we spend the money, and that should break even. The reserve fund and the capital funds is where projects occur, and projects can be buying equipment to building roads. Am I okay so far? Okay. And in general, the conversations I would have in the past, and my experience has been in the past, is I only worry about the general fund because that's what we told the voters that we need to focus on. And every so often, something would show up in the general fund, like paving State Street. And we go, well, why is that in there? That's a project, and there's no offsetting revenue. It would just be the expense, like we would have had bond money or grant money to do that. And the explanation had been, which I would accept and generally do accept, is that don't worry about it. In the capital fund, money crosses over fiscal years. So sometimes you spend the money first in one year, you get the money back in another year. Sometimes you get the money up front in one year and you spend the money in the next year. And overall, the capital fund comes out in the wash. Or if there's a variance, I know project by project. If we're doing $1 million road construction, I know if it cost $1,050,000 or cost $950,000. So project by project, I just do that, and I've never seen a meaningful number out of whack on a budget. So I know I have been at town meetings, and 1 year it says we have a $700,000 deficit, and people don't like hearing that. And I say, well, particularly when we were going through FEMA projects and stuff like that, it's like, don't worry about it. Next year we're going to have a $400,000 surplus, and we would. So I kind of just left all that out there. Well, since COVID, it's been kind of weird. The budgets have been a challenge. And Natalia kind of came to me, not quite with hair on fire, but said, hey, Tom, you got to do a better job managing all of this mess. So she's the one that has explained to me how when we see the number in the audit that says we have a surplus or a deficit, I always looked at that as that's the general fund. That's not a general fund. That's the general fund, the capital fund, the reserve fund. It's all of those things lumped together. So that's what you have to look like. So that's, and let me see if I got it wrong already. The expected total accumulated deficit of 6/30/26, that 11.75 number is for this June, not last June.
That was last year.
Okay, so that's last year. We're looking at 1.2 million for this year. Okay, so we'll just make that 6 of 5. So there's a next paragraph that says it's like 1.45 million is a deficit, but we're expected to have 250,000 in cash at the end of the year, so it's a $1.2 million deficit. Everybody up to speed so far? Best you can? Okay, so now how do we get here? The first thing is 540,000 related to the dam construction in 2012. And we did have a question on the town meeting warrant this year about bonding authorization to reimburse ourselves for that, which did pass. So we haven't acted on it, but that's available. Then in fiscal 24, we ran an $82,000 deficit. And up to that point, we had been break even. So looking at 24, we ran this $82,000 deficit. And as I go into here, that was primarily related to the mid-contract pay adjustments that we did that added about 165,000 to the budget that year. We were able to mitigate about 80,000 of that, but we still came in 80,000 under budget or over budget. We go to last year, fiscal 25, and we ran a $250,000 deficit. And the reason for that is that was the year the school went up 19%. During our budget discussions, we wanted to keep spending to an absolute minimum. We did no contribution to capital or to reserve. We were very thin on things like maintenance and fuel and, all of the, I'm going to say guesses. And they all kind of broke the wrong way because in addition to budgeting low, we had delays on a couple of ambulances and one of our highway trucks that generated a lot of repair expense because we had to use the trucks for an extra almost 2 years. So given that the prior year, we were cutting expenses to cover the pay increase, and we come into fiscal 25, having a lean budget the year before, and then passing an even leaner budget, it didn't work out. So we ran the $250,000 deficit. Are we good so far? Okay, good meaning understanding. So for the year that we're in, overall, we're projecting a revenue shortfall of about $100,000. And it comes from the bullet points underneath. The ambulance revenue, as we've been talking about, is about 120,000 short, which thankfully is that first quarter that was bad, but it stabilized after that. Recreation is projected to be about 40,000 short, based on projected participation in the summer programs, and some, I'll call it aggressive budgeting on the expected revenue from there. A surprise was our pilot, which is the state payments on tax payments on state land, had been fairly consistent. This year, out of about 230,000 annual payments, we got 203. That's part of the state budget adjustments. We didn't get that. And then on a bunch of other line items, we were about 90,000 over. So that's where we get the net 100,000 short. Okay. And then on the expense side, we're saying we're about 300,000 over. Much of that is related to employee benefits. As you know, we offer a health reimbursement account, 4,400 for singles and 8,800 for others. We've seen a very dramatic increase in the use of that. It appears to be primarily related to increased copays and deductibles within the program. So they maintain a lower increase on premiums, but the benefit is less inside. And we had made adjustments up this year. We did make an adjustment in the budget, but that's where we're seeing a lot of that. The premiums are about 27,000 over budget. That mostly has to do with employee changes or changes within the employment on what their coverage they're choosing. Workers' comp is a number that we don't have. When we go into budget, we have a 6-month number. So when that actually came out for the other 6 months, that's quite a bit over. And our pension is 25,000 over budget, and that is an internal error where we didn't, when we calculate the VEMR's contribution, we know what that percentage is, but we didn't calculate it on any of the overtime. We just did it on regular wages. And so my fault for that. It says fire and ambulance is off by 90,000, but last year when we were doing the budget and looking to come in under budget and not cut services, I just took 50,000 off of the fire department. They have about $1 million payroll, and the expectation is they're the department with the biggest turnover, and that we could go shifts throughout the year that would amount to basically one position, and hopefully that would work out. The call volumes and such didn't allow for that, so that didn't work itself out. But that was a budgeting thing going in, not so much managing the budget. And then highways about 30,000 over, and that's, but basically salt. For those of you who know, salt was a difficult thing to come by this year. We had to go to different sources to get the salt, and everybody knew that it was tough to get, and the pricing was significantly different than what we had budgeted for. And repairs, once again, it's not all related to one truck, but we had a truck we were supposed to get last August, so we haven't seen yet. So. Okay. Any questions?
I guess my question would just be like, what's the average deficit for a town like that I'm sure that there are not everybody's completely in the black in the year of our Lord 2026, but is this like average or?
I don't think there's an average. I mean, I think everybody shoots to have a break even.
Yeah.
And Natalia, do you have any insight on the financial world?
Thank you. Sorry.
Basically, it's not a point.
Okay.
Like choosing where do you want to land.
Yeah.
Because, in your annual budget, you have things like are unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right. And some years you might have a surplus because your revenues came up more than you anticipated, or your expenditures came more because there were things that increased prices, and then it's not like that.
Okay.
Middle one.
Heard.
And that's where I say we were kind of at break even going into 24. It wasn't because every year it came in. Like there was a year, I think we had $300,000 extra ambulance revenue. But that was offset by some other expense later on. So And that's when we had talked about establishing our reserve fund. I believe that was in 2014. It was that every year, at the end of when we had the finalized numbers, what the reserve fund would be for is we had a target that said the goal should be to have it be 10% of the operating budget. So our operating budget's 7.5 million, so 750,000. So you get to that. Once you meet that point, the board would make a decision every year to say, do you want to put more in? Or you could say, wow, we have a surplus this year. Do we want to contribute more to the reserve account? Or do we want to use that to buy down the tax rate, which is a fairly common thing to happen in municipalities? Or do you want to apply some of the reserve fund to the next year's revenue line to fill a gap? So, and that is, I don't know that I've ever seen somebody, well, I've seen them use it to buy down the rate. I've never seen somebody add pennies to cover a deficit. They would buy the rate. So it's important to have a reserve fund. And I think that's kind of where, since I live with this every day, I didn't like learning about it the way I did. I think that was a real shortfall on my part. But the fact that in the beginning, we had no money in the bank and credit equipment. And now essentially we have $1.2 million in the bank and $1.2 million deficit that I think is just something we have to manage through. Sorry, Trevor. You'll have to manage through. So, but it doesn't cause me concern. Like, we've been in regular conversations with auditors all the time, with the bond bank and things like that. So I'll just leave that editorial at that.
Thank you.
So
I don't have a question on this one. I'm waiting for page 3 on how we can fix it. So I'll wait for that.
okay, all right. Well, if I'm over explaining, let me know.
You're not over explaining.
Natalia has been a saint putting up with my ineptitude when it comes to this. I am not an accountant. She says, I hear what you're saying. I do not understand what you're saying. Let's take a step back. And we spent a lot of time together working through that stuff. So what we have here is my version of plain talk that, as she says, to do all these transfers, to do all these kind of stuff. No, Tom, that doesn't work. All that does is move the number. It doesn't change the number. So this is what we look like today. Cash on hand means the money we have in the bank. That's the $1.26 million. So that seems good. Our capital fund has around 560,000 allocated to it, meaning over time, the select board has voted to make contributions to it. Sometimes they didn't vote to make contributions to it. Like if we bought a new truck and took the trade-in cash value, we would put that into the capital fund. So there has been a number of ways that money got into there. Over time, we have loaned the general fund $555,000 for cash flow purposes. We can get into that later. In the early years, I would come to the select board and say, we would like to borrow this much money from the capital fund for this long at this interest rate. The board would vote and we would do that. I say Ron and I fell into some sloppy habits, and Ron and I would do the discussion, but Ron would never provide me with the motions and I would never ask him for them. So things were just moving back and forth. And I knew about it and it was all okay, but we didn't have a formalized process that we were following. This past spring, if you recall, that was a problem for Natalia.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, we got to start doing that. So we borrowed money from the water and sewer capital funds for cash flow, and the board voted on those kind of things. And that's what these following things on the agenda are related to for today. But what we do know is that much money was loaned. The reserve fund has an allocated balance of $586,000, of which $465,000 has been loaned. ARPA, see if I can get this right. ARPA is listed separately, but the board voted to allocate funds to the reserve fund. So it's there. The Hoisington Fund, that is the age-old insurance settlement fund. Fortunately, the market's been doing pretty well, and the practice has been to take earnings or balances above 400,000 and contribute that to revenue. We budget $4,000 a year for that, so 1%. As you can see, this year it's about 50,000. So the expectation is to take that 50,000 and use it for. We'll draw from the fund, not borrow, take. And then in our sewer and water capital funds, you see those amounts gives us a total of $3.4 million in the accounts, of which about $1 million has been loaned to the general fund. So when we get into some of our cash flow, as of today, we are owed about $620,000 from taxpayers, utility payers, other vendors that we have accounts receivable outstanding from. And in addition to that, we are also in the final quarter of our utility process. So we are always billing in arrears. So all of the operations from utilities are funded through the general fund cash until we send out the bills again and reimburse ourselves. Follow? Okay. So normally that number the number we've been floating around, it's about 1.2 million that we are without. If we ended the year exactly on balance on June 30th and had to start July 1st, we would be about $1.2 million in the hole, cash flow wise, not deficit. So with that, what do we need to get through the next month? We have approximately $1.8 million in bills that we need to pay. Sounds like a lot. Around $1 million of that goes to the school in their quarterly payments. So, and that's something else that really has contributed to our cash flow. We went from around 850,000 to $1.1 million when the taxes went up 2 years ago, and we are mandated to pay that whether we collect it or not. So that just had a little pressure. So as noted up top, we have 1.26 in the cash, which means we have $546,000 to cover to get through the end of the fiscal year. That cash flow, that's different than the deficit. So what the suggestion is, borrow 250,000 from the water, 210 from sewer capital, and 86,000 from our reserve. So if we do that, we will have enough cash to get through June 30. Okay, pay all of our bills. Then what do? The same thing we do every year. July 1st, we draw from our tax anticipation note. We have 2.2 million approved by Mascoma Bank, and height periods, usually it runs like July, August into September. We borrow. September, the first tax collection is due. We're flush with cash for a while, so we pay everything back, and then we make it to about December before we run out of the cash on hand, and we usually have to borrow from somewhere, either the tax anticipation note or one of the other funds, to get us through to the second collection date, usually the first or second week of February. That brings in a bunch of cash. And, as you know, we had 2 collection dates, but both of them have a 60-day grace period. So the biggest collections are on the official dates because all the escrows come in. But there's a lot of people that take advantage of the 60 days. So we have to make up for that as well. So then we get to the time of year where we are now. All of the tax collection that we expect to get is in. The delinquencies will start coming in a little bit, but it's been fairly consistent that we get maybe when the tax sale notices start going out, we have between 200 and 250,000 that's owed. The notices generate that to come back. By the time we actually go to tax sale, like I think right now we have 7 properties on it. Tax sale is June 23rd. I expect that to be cut at least in half. So the money comes in, but it's not something you can count on. But we factored in for our cash on hand. Okay. Questions? Page 3.
This is a lot to just take in right here with not having any time to think or process.
That's why you're not being asked to do anything tonight, okay? So, and as Natalia and I have been going back and forth, the numbers change frequently. I think we started at closer to an expected $450,000 deficit this year. Now this says 350 and we're hoping more like 300.
That's hoping that, we don't have a lot of expenses in June, which department heads have been, we have been sent messages to them, like only necessary stuff needs to be purchased. Revenues, checking with department heads, line revenues that are low, like what can we expect for those? All those projections come from that.
Natalia and I frequently go back and forth about glass half full. That's me. Glass half empty. That's Natalia. She needs to be glass half full. It can be frustrating for me being she needs to be glass half empty. But fortunately, as the weeks have gone by, the projection deficit has been getting lower. So, and that is something that I want to make clear that the numbers are not the result of the departments mismanaging their budgets. They are a result of all of us trying to do what we can when there has been no expressed interest in reducing community town services. Anecdotally, we can all appreciate what is happening to wage rates. And it's not just what we did in the contracts, but when we have to hire new people, supply, all of the things that are affecting all of us affect us here. And given that for 2 years, basically, we've told everybody not to spend anything more than they absolutely need, and we've been able to manage that. I'm very confident that they're doing their absolute best on the financial side.
I'm just curious, I know that we have time to think about this, but there's 3 options here, and I'm just curious, Natalia, what do you think is like the best or smartest decision to move forward?
Why we don't hear unless you all, I don't know. I think having a background how we come to these options will help. And I think I will circle back to answer your question.
Okay.
Okay, I will not have any editorial comment. I'll just go through them and then Natalia can provide her wisdom. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is to convert the loans made from the reserve and the capital funds to the general fund to be a permanent allocation. So that's saying taking that $1,020,000 that had been loaned from those capital and reserve funds to the general fund, and don't call them a loan anymore, vote to say we are allocating those funds to the general fund. If you do that, that would essentially eliminate the deficit, but it also eliminates most of the money.
Right, then we wouldn't have anything in those reserves. Correct. Right, all right.
If you codify the loans made from the general fund, from the capital or reserve funds, and include repayment of those loans in future budgets. So the difference there is to say, we have loaned this much money from these funds to the general fund. We want to pay it back. So the board votes to say, we borrowed 1.2 million from these various funds. We want to pay it back within 5, 10, 15, 20 years at an interest rate of blank. And then that becomes as required essentially as a bond payment. So going forward, every year there would be a sum of money, and I gave an example of additional contributions. So that doesn't provide working capital today, but it does give you a plan to replenish. And all of this is in addition to annual contributions. I think the recommendation is of at least 200,000 to the reserve funds.
I'm confused. If we did that and we wipe out those accounts, but then we say we want to pay it back, then aren't the years going forward going to even feel tighter to everybody in Windsor, all of us? Because now we're paying back all that money to ourselves because we just used it all. And I not so sure yet, we want to have some stuff in reserve.
Right.
But it feels like financially that puts even more pressure.
But you're adding another invoice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I'm thinking
Yeah.
correctly, right? Okay.
But just in that, it's the board's discretion on whether you want to make it a 5-year loan or a 50-year loan.
Right.
But one way or the other, the money's got to get paid back if that's what you want. And the third is kind of splitting the two. We have bonding authorization to cover the dam expenses. For ease of math, I rounded that up to 600,000. So you go to the market, borrow 600,000. That's real cash that comes in that repopulates, we'll say, the capital fund with cash. It would add somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000 a year to bond debt payments. And then the rest, you permanently allocate, which was the part of front one, say, okay, we've lent you the money and we're not expecting it back. So that gives you some cash on hand, mitigates to a degree the future tax impact. And then the last thing that is in that last paragraph is you can take any of these things and there's a line in the budget that we've never used, but it says it's a revenue line for surpluses or deficits. So if we were going to allocate $100,000 surplus, we would do that, and then the result would be a lower tax rate at the bottom. You can also say we are going to fund the deficit, and 1 penny raises about $40,000. So let's say you added 5 cents to the tax rate. You do that brings in an additional 200,000 to whatever else you're collecting for the reserve fund. And when the goal has been hit, that you get the reserve fund back to where you want it, you remove that from the budget. So it would be a painful thing in some year, but then an opportunity where the board would then say, oh, we get to take that nickel off so we can spend more money or just lower the tax rate. I'm done, Natalia.
Okay. I think I mentioned to Tom today, I think option 3, it sounds the more logical to me. And the reason behind it is because, well, we already have approved 550,000 for the dam damages. And I mentioned to Tom, I sent an email to the Vermont World Bank because basically that was a damage and it was an emergency repairs that happened. And I think it could qualify for a lower rate interest if we decide to go with that loan. I haven't received an answer, but I get an answer and he said yes, I'll let them know. Which that's in the process. And then the reserve, I know we have a policy how to allocate the money that we have in the reserve. It's up to the select board, to look the deficits and define, okay, this is the deficit, this is how much we need to allocate to reduce that. And I think that part will be good to do it. And then we haven't done adding the pennies on the tax bill yet, but the LCT is one of the recommendations that they say, if you are this troubled, this is what you can do. I think that's.
So in the big picture, the reserve fund is primarily it's your rainy day fund, just like at home. So we would be using that for what it's intended for. This would also fully fund the capital to the allocations. So like if Kevin came today and said, I found a great fire truck, the money's loaned to the general fund. There's not a check we could cut for 500,000. So we can always borrow, then because we have authorization to borrow for a fire truck too. We just haven't done it. And the other thing is, for good reason, back when there was no money in town, the Hoisington Fund was off limits to everything. And thankfully for that, that like backup reserve fund still exists. So it's not like we don't have anything. We do have access to the markets for capital if we need an emergency buy a truck. We do have 400,000 in a different bank account. So it's not dismal. And with all of this, it's the expectation is when the budgets are set year after year, there's going to be a meaningful contribution to the capital fund and the reserve fund. I think we have 250,000 budgeted next year, 200 to the reserve and 50,000 in capital. So each year that passes puts us in a better situation that way.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
When do we have to make a decision about this? Seeing it's June 2nd, is this like by the end of the month?
Okay.
Well,
So the next meeting, like,
on the next meeting, there will be
24th.
specific motions recommended. Contact me or Tara if you have more questions or if you're leaning a certain way. I will have motions prepared for a variety of options. And to be honest, if you didn't do anything, it doesn't matter. What you need to do is allocate the vote you have to do today from the Water and Sewer Capital Fund to borrow from them so we can pay our bills. But whether you vote on this or not, July 1st comes and we use the tax anticipation bond like we do every year. What this does is clean up all the accounting. It puts, like, I want to make sure Trevor knows, Natalia knows, the board knows, where are we financially? And when this decision is made, it will be very clear. There won't be a bunch of do froms or how much money do we really have in the account. Everybody will know where we stand. And that has been the last 6 months worth of work here. Practically speaking, it's just another day when July 1st comes.
Thank you, Natalia, for all of your hard work all the way around.
Thanks a lot.
Jeffrey?
You know what? I know this is beating a dead horse, but this school budget thing is what really, really irks me, this payment to school. Is there any way to anticipate what that looks like next year? I mean, to me, this would be, I don't know. I'm just struggling with the fact that that's what we owe the school. I don't know what's out of our hands, but do we have any idea what the next payment's gonna look like?
Is I understand it, and Trevor, feel free to chime in, that the first indication I got in December was that the schools were going to go up about 14%.
Yeah.
And then everybody freaked out, and I heard it was going to be about 4% because they were going to buy down the tax rate with surplus funds from somewhere else. Now the House and the Senate are arguing. One wants to use all the money, the other one only wants to use half. And as far as I know, they haven't made that decision yet. So school budget maybe 4 to 8% is a reasonable guess.
I just feel like that's a problem. Just in thinking.
And I've always predicated this, that yes, it is the state, the school budget is, was only up 6%, but we also only pay 37% of our entire tax bill. We are heavily, heavily subsidized. So sometimes it's just like with our pilot this year, the state is feeling those same pressures. It's really frustrating being at the bottom of the hill here. We have nowhere else to go.
Right.
And if they start cutting back, not just pilot, but if they start homestead rebates, now they don't cut it, but they just raise the income levels before you get to it. And the school things, it's, we all went through that pain before, and now, all the talk is about regionalization, and I'll get off my soapbox, but they're talking about putting an extra penalty on schools that pay more than the average, that don't regionalize. So now we're gonna add $100,000 to your school bill if you don't regionalize, and then you regionalize, and they say, look at that, we just saved you $100,000. They didn't save you $100,000, you just missed out on the fine. So anyway, yes, there's been quite a bit of conversation about the infrastructure projects that aren't getting done because of the school tax pressure. And just imagine being in a town where 80% of your budget, your tax bill is education, and that's happening. So in some sense, we're kind of fortunate.
What percentage of hours?
Around 50-50, maybe 47%, 53, it changes. Then you put on top of that, like, if we didn't bring in a million something in ambulance revenue, it wouldn't hurt when we lost 100,000. But you depend on all these different revenue streams.
Yeah. Good question. So what could we as a select board have done, if anything, to forestall this situation or head off this situation? Were we too generous? Were we too ignorant of what was happening? Or what's our role? I mean, I know what our role is, but if we had to do this over, what could we have done differently?
The easiest answer, I guess, is when we start the budget process and I say, well, it looks like if you want to do the same thing all over again, it'll be an 11% tax increase. And then nobody wants that. So we go through the whole budget. Every time, nobody says we want less recreation, less cops, less fire, less anything like that. So we cut the budget down and we come up with something that says we want a 3.5% tax increase or a 5%, or whatever that number is. Generally speaking, that has worked. But I do think because of the volatility over the last few years, cutting that, well, it would take 10% down to 5%, is caught up with us. So the answer would be, if we would have added 2 or 3 cents every year to the tax rate, added, maybe that's an extra 2%. Services would have stayed the same, all the money would be in the bank. Essentially what this is doing is saying, okay, well, that didn't work out, so now we're going to pay back what we didn't charge up front. The other, obviously you can either get more money or reduce service. And as we constantly talk about, our police staff is at the number required to have 24/7 service. And that if we cut it, it's likely we'll lose a contract with another community. So how much are we going to save? Fire department, same things. It's been very eye-opening. Again, Natalia working with the fire department on the non-billable calls and how they have changed increases. So we look and go, well, we're not making any more money. We're not doing any more ambulance runs. We're doing more ambulance runs, but when we show up, they say, thanks for the Narcan or whatever, or thanks for putting me back in bed, but I don't want to go to the hospital with you. So we're responding to a lot of things and not getting paid. And there hasn't been any effort or interest in the community to reduce that service. And I think rightly so. And when you get past fire and police, we got 4 guys on the highway. We got the rec center being what the rec center is. And then being highly subsidized is great until the source of the subsidy dries up.
I just want to make sure before I move on that no one else had any other questions or comments there. You think it's okay to move on? We have a little bit to think about this and kind of figure out what we're feeling. So next up is an action item to consider the approval of interfund borrowing for year-end cash flow.
That's right. So there's a couple of documents in the packet. One would authorize the general fund to borrow $250,000 from the sewer fund, and at Italia, 1.489%, not 1.5%, 1.489, because that is what?
Basically, the select board is in charge of the water and sewer project, right? That is the money that is currently generating as the bank, the interest rate that we are getting on that money. Now, when I put it there, it's up to you. Keep it the same, lower it down, or don't have any interest. That your decision.
So the footprints are close, but not every taxpayer is a water or sewer customer, and every sewer customer is not a water customer. So they are different entities. So this is borrowing the money from that community at an interest rate equivalent to what it earns in the bank. Would you like to do them separately?
What do you guys think?
So we're borrowing, I'm getting a little confused with all the figures. So we're borrowing and then we're charging ourselves interest. We're paying that 1% interest?
Yes.
That's
Normal?
that's a business side.
Okay,
Government side versus business side. All your government, your general fund, all your projects is one. Those are taxpayers. And now you have your water and sewer customer users. That's a completely different business.
so this is normal to kind of charge interest to ourselves to pay back.
And I would say there's not a right answer. Like you could say, we're all the same community. Why are we charging interest? But there are people who only pay a water bill, and we've taken some of their billing, but the money they've given, and they're lending it to the community, the greater community. And if we didn't borrow it, they would get this 1.489% for that amount of time. So by paying that, no harm is done to their budget. They get the same money they would have gotten anyway. So that's the thought behind it.
But we need to do this to
So that we have the cash to pay.
be
the bill.
okay. Okay.
And then when we
So-
send the utility bills back out again and the tax bills, that line goes back.
Are you guys okay voting on both of them together, or do you want me to separate them?
Yeah.
Just vote. Vote
Okay,
down this list.
then a motion about 250,000 from the sewer capital fund at a rate of 1.489% for a maximum of 6 months. Okay. And then to borrow 210,000 from the water fund at 1.489% for a period no longer than 6 months.
I make those motions. Does anybody?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'm like, is there any discussion? Jeffrey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That has passed. Next up, we have a liaison report from WIC.
No, it's me.
Okay.
So I have a list here, and I'll just kind of touch on what I think are basically pertinent. There's a couple, and a lot of this we talked about earlier when we had Bob Flynn come and talk to the board, when we were doing budget and that kind of stuff. All right, there's a couple of maps being worked on, or brochures. One's a wayfinding map, one is a walking brochure. Those are things that are being worked on and being printed and being available to place in businesses and other strategic locations. One place would be some signage down near the train station, which would be wayfinding and provide information to travelers coming off the trains to look around in town. Let's see, we've put brochures, our plan is to put brochures, and I think we have done some of this in the Vermont Welcome Centers. I know that we had 2 welcome centers that were had displays in the town of Windsor. And I think that's an ongoing thing. The beautification situation, we have put planters out in town, and I know there's a lot of window boxes on businesses that have been filled, and that's a WIC project. And that's an ongoing thing because WIC also decorates for Christmas. Notice their lights, red, white, and blue lights up around town in anticipation of 4th of July and the 250th, anniversary. Those are all WIC projects that are ongoing, depending on what time of the year it is. My favorite thing is the community art project. There is a committee, and Mary's on it. When Emma, okay. it's anticipated to go into 2027, I believe. Let me just double check here. Yes, okay. So there's some ideas being generated and people are brainstorming, and I think that's exciting. So that's kind of my favorite thing to talk about. Welcome Center volunteers. There's been a request to have volunteers to sit in the Welcome Center to greet people coming off the train and to offer bathroom facilities at that point in the Welcome Center building. That is taking some time to organize. There's this idea that we need to do some training and we need to get some volunteers, and that's still in the works, but it sounds like it's doable at some point. I don't think it would be manned daily. It may be a weekend focus, but it's not yet off the ground. All right. Those are the highlights. There are other things going on, but yeah. Any questions?
That's a lot. They've been busy.
Yeah.
Now we'll move into old business with the town manager transition. Do you want to go over the June schedule?
Yeah, and Trevor, tell me if I'm wrong. We can count this for an early June meeting. Would you intend on being in town? You're coming in for the parade, right?
Yep, be in for the parade and then planning to come down on, I don't know, bulk trash day is what I learned it is in a prior stop. So planning on coming down for that the weekend after as well. And maybe even trying to squeeze in a day in the time in between as we wrap stuff up in Montpelier and Randolph and try to be everywhere all at once.
Well, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the community to meet Trevor. You know, Trevor and I, not to brag, but we're the grand marshals of the alumni parade this year.
What does that mean? I don't know what a grand marshal is.
Usually it meant somebody that graduated from Windsor High School a long time ago. Got driven by somebody. Probably 3/4 of the years I've been here, I will be the one driving them. This year, I don't know what happened. They didn't have one.
You're gonna ride in a car? You guys are gonna?
Well, I'm taking all the doors and everything off the Jeep, and I used to have cool convertibles. Now I don't have them anymore. So now
If you need, are you throwing beads or candy? If you need extra
I think
Mardi Gras
I
beads.
think that is a Randolph tradition. The beads in particular.
Randall.
It's too
Thomas.
rowdy up there.
Trevor,
We had to stop the beads. Too rowdy.
Well, to bring the tradition down to the birthplace of Vermont. So, maybe I leave that to the people to make the signs that go in the car and to provide. See, if I said it's my idea to throw candy, then like it'd go right underneath the wheels and some little kid. But I'd rather if somebody else said you have to throw the candy, then you would talk to the parents, not me. So we'll see, but we'll be around. We're not hanging around like all day long, but we'll be there before the parade and after to meet and greet folks. Same thing with dump day. That's just a great opportunity to meet people kind of one-on-one. And there is currently high drama related to the June 15th community picnic. Or
There's drama?
Well, because James Aldrich is saying, there's going to be at least 400 people there because all the little league teams, like everybody's family, the fire department said, sure, we'll make the food. And they're going, what? 400 people there? How are we going to do that? It'll all be worked out, but
It will all work out.
that will be another thing. And as Mary pointed out, we haven't advertised that if it rains that day, we're going to have something in the rec center. But that's
Okay.
the backup plan and we'll get that word out too.
Cool.
So anyway, there'll be plenty of opportunity to meet and greet. And then at least what I've been saying, and Trevor and I can talk more about this, is on June 15th, Trevor's name is outside the door, not mine. So it becomes his office. He's the guy, he's in charge. think the last we talked, the thought was I would preside over the next select board meeting just to handle this drama, that kind of stuff. And then that's it. And in the 2 weeks intervening, I'll be around as much or as little as anybody wants.
Don't say it like that.
Well, see, we all come from a different point of view.
Yes.
So I'll put it out here on the public record. When Harry Ledoux retired, poor old James, Harry showed up a lot. And who was he? That was another one. It just changing of the guard,
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I know Trevor, I'm sure, has been in this situation. I have been a little bit that sometimes you're just ready to go. And sometimes you're going, what the hell did I get myself into? I wish I had somebody I can talk to. So however that goes, that's how it goes.
All right. So that takes care of that. Would you like to get into the town manager's report?
Sure. Only to put credit where credit is due, Jeffrey. All the colorful lights in town.
Yeah.
That is Riley and her promotions.
I thought so too.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Figured.
anyway, I haven't been in town when it's dark.
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay, so we got red, white, and blue lights all over the place. I think there's still some banners coming, and I think, as I had mentioned before, this is all going to be used again next year for the Vermont 250th. So, anyway, that's the plan, and the highway guys are the ones that actually do it. Riley puts all the thought and tracks everything down to get it all purchased. So it'll look nice. There's no big parade. I know West Windsor's having, their parade and fireworks. Heartland is having fireworks. So there'll be things in the area from that, but ours is more just the alumni parade. And then the town looks nice. So that's what we'll do.
Emma?
I had a question about the municipal preparations. Just there is a water fountain in Veterans Park that is not working. Is
Mhm.
there a way to get that? What's up with that?
I have been going back and forth about that.
Okay.
That has not worked since I've been here.
Okay.
I was gonna say it's
right,
been a hot minute.
right after it got put in, something broke.
Right.
And it is a difficult thing to fix without much perceived public value. Like more people would say, gross, I'm not drinking out of that public water fountain and want to use it. But it's like the bricks got to get pulled up to, like, there are ways to do it, but it's expensive. And it's never been a priority to take the fountain out.
Right.
It's never been a priority to put something in. And I know there has been some suggestions that there may be community money out there. I would suggest if anybody wants it done, they raise the money. We're talking $5,000 to $10,000.
5 to 10,000. Okay.
But that, I mean, it comes up every so often, and it's either, why is that thing there? Why not just take it out? Or how come that thing doesn't work? And it's a legacy that I'm leaving behind.
That's okay with me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Project statuses?
Project statuses. The flashing crosswalks are, the footings have been installed, so.
Oh, they're coming.
Now it's, the highway guys are putting them together, so it's just as their schedule allows, but.
So we have them?
Oh, we have them. The state has given their final approval. Once we got the state to come and physically look at where we're putting them and signed off on it, we contracted with Green Mountain Power to come and use our big auger thing to drill holes. And they all have holes except the one in front of ST Associates that's going right into the concrete sidewalk. So all the preparations are there. Now it's just a matter of getting in schedule, but they'll be done, in the weeks ahead.
Great.
Skate park, the trees are planted. The contractor to build the second half of it, he'll be working on it all summer. He's got the materials ordered, steel, and primarily the steel is what he needed to pre-order. So he'll be getting to work on that, and that'll be taken care of. The highway
Yeah.
guys.
Hold on.
The other, I just was down there last week. The Public Art Committee took a walk over there. So the other half of the skate park that's kind of dug up, that's where the rest of the concrete
Yeah.
is gonna go. When do you think that will actually, now that you have a little bit more information, like when will it be finished? We were kind of wondering, we didn't know the time frames.
Everything that is scheduled to be done will be finished by the end of the summer.
By the end of the summer,
If
okay.
he can build it more quickly and the weather is okay, it'll be done sooner, but the contract is actually, I think, some date in September that it will be officially done.
Thank you.
Some of the finishing touches we've been putting on is we had a grant for a bunch of trees. They all got planted a few weeks ago. The highway guys put out some picnic tables and benches that we got as part of the grant. So there's now picnic area.
Sorry, didn't you say you were gonna have grills or something, or?
I did.
Is that going to be like on the side of the exchange, like that grassy area that's down there? Is that where that, like, the tables will go?
Well, the tables are there now and they're obviously mobile, but the idea was to put, I think it's two of the tables where the trees are, like you got the exchange and you got an open sunny area and then there's like 4 or 5 trees to provide some shade. So the picnic tables and at least one, if not 2 of the grills would go over there. And if there's another grill, maybe it'd go closer to the skate park and the dog park, but probably not.
Yeah, because I think we even talked about that when we went down. It wasn't there Thursday night when we did our little walkthrough, because I was thinking, oh, you know, you'd have picnic tables there, but you got possibly, you know, people skating and dogs barking. So do you really want to, like, you know,
To have all that
eating
fun.
food going on where it's seems like a really nice, just across the street sort of, you know, that grassy area.
When the plan was done, the expectation was if you're going down Depot Avenue, to the left side would be skate park, dog park, to the right would be picnic areas.
Yeah.
And then it's just in the sun or not in the sun. And the general feeling was not in the sun. You can put lawn chairs out there, whatever you want to do. And there's a couple of benches. They were all put out yesterday. Not the girls. They're still working on that.
Jeffrey?
And the community gardens, they're gonna be in the sun, so I mean, it might,
Oh.
where, the community garden?
I don't know that that's happening.
Oh, you don't?
Oh, I mean, that was nothing more than, hey, could we?
Right,
And well, sure, if you want to, put them over by the blue building because that's where water is.
okay,
And nothing has happened. So I don't know that anything will.
okay, but that area would be more of the community garden because it's sunny, if that's what happens.
So we're also going to be, there's a couple old big steam engine parts and stuff like that they're going to get placed out there, and we're going to count that as art.
Sculptures.
Sculptures. There is a sculpture back between the skate park and the dog park that is made of a rail, whatever you call it, crossing thing.
There's some rail ties even on the walkway near the exchange too that look pretty cool, like a
Yeah,
squarish kind of.
that's
Really
Terry
cool.
McDonald. Yeah, no, those are all rails that were found on the site that he had manufactured. We have one more of those that we can put up. Just by coincidence, like there's a walking trail, paved trail. It's a 1/4 mile long. When they got around the backside where they haven't quite finished the skate park yet, it got kind of narrow, so they didn't do that part yet. But for what it's worth, for people who care about that kind of thing, that the walking trail will be a measurable amount. If in the future somebody wants to put workout stations along that was kind of some of the things that we're talking about. We do have brownfields money to clean up the Stacy Yard, which is the area just to the south.
Jeffrey and I pointed out those big warehouses with that equipment. That's a brownfield.
Yeah, the whole thing, it's the same. Also, the legend is that out where the L building are, that there's a big concrete pad that used to have a rail turntable sitting on top of it.
Oh.
So the hope is we can excavate that and somehow incorporate that into the whole rail yard concept. Cool. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
So, dream big. So all of that's, and the Stacy Yard, those are town buildings there. We had the prisoners paint them way back in the day, and we put a little bit of money here or there and to keep them watertight, sort of, just to store stuff like you see. But, there has been, some conversation about doing something better with that, or that the building that's right next to the blue building is actually somewhat solid on the inside. They're very well built, back from their rail yard history, freight houses and stuff. So there's no plan of knocking them down, and there's no plan of fixing them up, but the dirt is getting cleaned up. The paving, saying that the blacktop paving showed up today, and they were grinding Durkee and Depot. So they should be out of town on those by the end of the week.
Nice.
We are really pressing the state to get the final word on that park and ride. We don't have the official go-ahead yet, and it is really frustrating, but if we can get a word that paving guy can leave some equipment here for maybe 2 weeks, his grinder and paver thing. So, but that's still sitting.
Central Street.
Durkee and Central are kind of the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah. It happens a lot here in town. I've never lived anywhere like, Taylor and Jewett, it's a big circle, and
Yeah.
Channing and Huntington.
I don't, the street we live on, Court into Pine.
Into Jacob.
Yeah. To Jacob.
Yeah.
Right.
Must have been a lot of important people in town that all wanted their little section of the world named after them. I don't know. Okay.
Does anyone have anything that they want to put for upcoming agenda items? Excuse me?
I'll add, I think on the next agenda side, what we've been talking about, we should have draft utility budgets as well. Not for vote, but
Draft. Utility. And it looks like we have some orders that we need to sign tonight. Do we have a motion to sign orders?
Do a motion to sign orders.
A second.
Is there any discussion? Jeffrey, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 and I will give you these loan things that have been corrected to accurately reflect the offices held by the various members. Sorry about that. There you go. Also.
All right. And let's see while we're signing here, are there any public comments for items not on the agenda? How about board comments? Do you guys want to start down there? While I start signing orders.
I don't really have anything special to say.
Yes, I'd say, it's spring and going into summer, so everybody's really, there's a lot going on in town, and maybe at some point, not necessarily on the agenda, but maybe the board can do some, we talked in the past about some outreach, and I think that would be good to keep in our back of our minds. And then, no, I think there's a lot of exciting things happening.
I would like to give a shout out to Amanda Jordan Smith, who organized the raising of the pride flag on June 1st, and it was very joyful and silly and chaotic, and there were a lot of kids with lights that I got from Mr. G's and really great stickers, and they were running around the base of the pride flag freaking out with the little flags. It was just cute and nice and hopeful and lovely. And I appreciate you coming tonight, Trevor, and I really appreciate oh my God.
Tom.
You
That's
are.
really good. No, baby.
Oh, yeah. What is it even about?
I would remember you. I would remember you if I was far gone. No, but she was lovely and nice and direct, and I'm sure she has been very good to work with for you.
I'll second that. Super big thank you to Natalia and for you. That I know that took a lot of work. That's a lot. We have some big changes coming. It's
Ridiculous.
exciting month. Trevor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Looking forward to seeing you at our next official meeting.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me.
Also, Trevor, do you want to stay for the executive session?
Sure, if you guys want, I think that would be
I'm
valuable.
inviting you.
Stay a fly on the wall. I appreciate that.
So we'll let him stay and Paula, and I am going to make a motion to enter executive session to 1 VSA 313 to discuss a contract, the premature general public knowledge of which would clearly place the town in substantial disadvantage in the negotiation of securing a real estate purchase options. No votes will be taken.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Jeffrey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now in executive session. Thank you for joining us.